Franz Kafka, one of the most influential writers of the 20th century, is renowned for his surreal, existential, and often nightmarish works that explore themes of alienation, bureaucracy, guilt, and absurdity. His stories and novels, such as The Metamorphosis, The Trial, and The Castle, have left a profound impact on modern literature and continue to be studied and interpreted worldwide. Early life. Franz Kafka was born on July 3, 1883, in Prague, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, into a middle-class Jewish family. His father, Hermann Kafka, was a prosperous and domineering merchant who owned a business dealing in haberdashery and other goods. His mother, Julie Loie Kafka, came from a well-off family and was more gentle and reserved. Kafka was the eldest of 6 children, though only 3 of his siblings survived infancy. Kafka's relationship with his father was complex and strained, characterized by the father's overbearing nature and Kafka's feelings of inadequacy and fear. This dynamic deeply influenced Kafka's later work, particularly his exploration of authority and oppressive power. Raised in a German-speaking Jewish household within the predominantly Czech city of Prague, Kafka grew up in a multicultural and multilingual environment. He was fluent in German, which was the language he chose to write in, and also spoke Czech and some Hebrew. Despite his Jewish heritage, Kafka was not religiously observant, though he maintained a cultural connection to Judaism and explored Jewish identity throughout his life. Education and early career. Kafka was an intelligent and diligent student. He attended the German Charles Ferdinand University in Prague, where he studied law. He graduated with a doctorate in law in 1906, which allowed him to work in civil service. For much of his professional life, Kafka worked in relatively mundane jobs, first at the Workers' Accident Insurance Institute for the Kingdom of Bohemia and later in similar bureaucratic roles. Despite his career in law and insurance, Kafka's passion was always literature. He began writing in his early 20s, initially producing short stories and sketches that revealed his unique literary voice, one marked by a blend of the surreal and the profoundly introspective. Literary career and style. Kafka's literary output was relatively small, and much of it was unpublished or incomplete during his lifetime. He wrote primarily short stories, novellas, and 3 unfinished novels. His style is marked by a distinctive combination of bleak realism and fantastical elements, often creating a sense of disorientation and existential dread. His stories frequently depict protagonists who find themselves trapped in illogical and oppressive systems beyond their understanding or control. This recurring theme, often described as Kafkaesque, has come to symbolize situations where individuals face absurd, nightmarish predicaments, usually involving faceless bureaucracies or inexplicable social forces. One of Kafka's most famous works, The Metamorphosis, 1915, tells the story of Gregor Samsa, a traveling salesman who wakes up one morning to find himself transformed into a gigantic insect. The story explores themes of alienation, guilt, and the dehumanizing effects of modern life. His novels The Trial and The Castle remain incomplete but are foundational to understanding Kafka's preoccupations with justice, power, and existential anxiety. The Trial follows Joseph K., a man arrested and prosecuted by an opaque and inaccessible authority for an unspecified crime, highlighting Kafka's vision of a nightmarish legal system. The Castle tells of a man attempting to gain access to a mysterious and unreachable castle bureaucracy, emphasizing themes of frustration and futility. Kafka's writing was deeply introspective and autobiographical at times. His diaries and letters reveal his struggles with self-doubt, anxiety, and his complex relationships, especially with women. He had several significant romantic relationships but never married. His correspondence with Felice Bauer is especially famous, showing his inner conflicts and his difficulty in balancing his writing, personal life, and professional obligations. Personal struggles and health. Kafka's life was marked by physical and psychological suffering. He suffered from periods of depression and intense self-doubt, compounded by his perfectionist nature and the pressures imposed by his father's expectations. He was socially awkward and introverted, and despite his literary talent, he was often plagued by feelings of failure. In 1917, Kafka was diagnosed with tuberculosis, a serious and often fatal disease at the time. His health steadily declined over the following years, leading him to quit his job in 1922 to focus on treatment and writing. Kafka spent time in sanatoriums and various spas seeking recovery, but the disease ultimately worsened. Despite his failing health, Kafka continued to write until shortly before his death. He was aware that his illness would likely claim his life and was concerned about his literary legacy. Death and posthumous fame. Franz Kafka died on June 3, 1924, at the age of 40, in Kierling, Austria, from complications related to tuberculosis. Before his death, Kafka entrusted his unpublished manuscripts to his close friend and literary executor, Max Brod, with instructions to burn them. Kafka was convinced his work was incomplete and unworthy of publication. However, Max Brod famously ignored Kafka's wishes and instead worked to publish and promote Kafka's writings. Thanks to Brod, Kafka's works became widely available after his death and gradually attracted critical acclaim and a growing readership. Kafka's posthumous reputation soared in the decades following his death. Today, he is regarded as one of the most important and influential writers of the 20th century. His exploration of the absurdities of modern life, the fragility of identity, and the alienation inherent in bureaucratic societies resonates with readers around the world. Legacy. Franz Kafka's influence extends far beyond literature into philosophy, psychology, and popular culture. The term Kafkaesque has entered common usage to describe surreal, illogical, or nightmarish situations, especially those involving oppressive bureaucracies. Kafka's works have been translated into numerous languages, adapted into films, theater productions, and inspire countless artists, thinkers, and writers. His exploration of existential themes helped pave the way for modern existentialism and absurdist literature. Though Kafka lived a relatively short and troubled life, his profound insight into human nature and society has immortalized him as a literary giant whose works continue to challenge and inspire.